and I'm delighted that you asked me to give this address. As I said, there are other reasons for my happiness in being here today. I live in New York City and I work in Washington, D.C., so needless to say, I'm happy not being there. Although I love the two cities, it's not great when there's 20 plus inches of snow. The federal government is closed today in D.C., however, but New York is open. So I go back and forth. I go down to D.C. Sunday night or early Monday morning, and I go home Friday night. All of that was canceled. But happily, I got out of there before that happened. I've been in Albuquerque. So, yes, the weather is fabulous here, and I used to come down here quite often a few years ago, and I always remember the fact that the Tucson area has such beautiful weather, and also it's just not as crazy as Phoenix in the size and the scope of Phoenix. It's just nice here just to drive from one neighborhood to the other. It's very nice out here. So we're here today. A lot of us from the OST are here and scattered throughout the audience here. We've been a big supporter of this conference, from what I understand, for 4 years. I've only been in office now for 21 months or so, and I understand from our people here that we are happy to participate in this conference in 4 years of success. We are happy that this also fills in with our mission and agrees with our mission in fulfilling the Interior's fiduciary trust. So one of the things I want to talk about today is what is that trust responsibility and how do we fulfill that? It can mean a lot of things, including some of the things that we do, of course, which is like asset management and disbursement of tribal funds, tribal and individual funds, have to remember that. Using best practices for investments and management of the funds and bolstering Indian country financially overall. This year, the conference is addressing an issue that is a large target for OST and the Department of the Interior, and that is, of course, fractionation. Fractionation affects a large part of Indian country and is taking a lot of moving parts to fix. OST helps oil that machine by providing appraisals and to make sure that all those selling land get a fair price for their parcels. We also provide support to the land buyback program and at the Trust Beneficiary Call Center by fielding questions, providing information, and keeping landowners aware that where they are in the process. Outreach activities conducted by the OST also help to inform Indian country about the land buyback program and in general about our mission and how important the process is for each tribe that participates. OST also provides audited and verifies the accounting and reporting of proceeds from the sale of undivided fractional interest by Native American landowners. And all of these efforts in coordination with the BIA to help restore land back to tribes for meaningful economic development. And of course, we are all supportive of that. In addition to the work we've done to reduce fractionation with the land buyback program, oops, I think I went too far. Anyway, it's a pretty picture, might as well leave it up there. We also have worked with the University of Arizona in supporting the local community with regards to financial literacy, a topic that is near and dear to my heart, in helping to establish a very successful will writing project here. These are just some of the many projects that we've helped Indian country with in the past 20 years. Speaking of that, this past November, we at the Office of the Special Trustee for American Indians, or as I'm calling it, OST, have been celebrating 20 years of providing fiduciary trust services for tribal and individual beneficiaries. And while we've been around for 2 decades, I'm often struck by how little people know about us, particularly given our role in managing something very important for Indian peoples, and that is, of course, the money. I'm going to take a small detour in my comments this morning on fractionation to share a little bit about the OST. Now, I am an IIM account holder at the OST, Individual Indian Money Account Holder. I also have land managed by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I've been a part of this entire process for many, many years. My parents are long gone, and of course, since then I have been a account holder at the OST, and of course, having my land with all of my cousins, managed by the Bureau. I, in fact, have some parcels in Osage County with 22 of my cousins, and that's fractionation right there. And if you knew my cousins, you knew that we couldn't get much done as a group. But that doesn't, that's what this conference is about, economic development. And, so I know firsthand the importance of what we're talking about here and about the OST. At the OST, we got a few facts and figures here. We have approximately $5 billion under management, and that's administering approximately 3,300 trust accounts for more than 250 Indian tribes and about 400,000 open individual Indian money accounts, the IIM accounts. Many of you in the room are very familiar with that, either on the tribal level or individual level. Wouldn't surprise me. And while we are not technically a bank, we operate along the same lines as the bank and trust company you might see in your local town or here in Tucson or wherever you're from. We receive funds on behalf of individual Indians and tribal communities. We invest the money, and then we make disbursements of the money on behalf of our beneficiaries, or you could think of them simply as customers. In addition, we perform the functions of a professional accounting firm in-house, and we have an investment management firm in-house, not unlike what I've seen on Wall Street and what I've worked with on Wall Street. And we also perform the work of a real estate appraisal business, all at the OST. Many of you know this, but for a lot of you in the audience don't know this. But what makes us different from what you would see on Main Street is that we do this on behalf of Indian country as part of the Department of the Interior's work to fulfill the U.S. government's trust responsibilities. Now, to be honest with you, these responsibilities were not always fulfilled by the government with the robustness that we would expect, which is, of course, the origin of how the OST came to be. We have made a lot of progress since the ratification of the American Indian Trust Fund Management Reform Act of 1994, which is how we marked the beginning of the OST, establishment of my office, the special trustee. Of course, the 1994 Act is the way we refer to it, was intended to address the problems identified in the document Misplaced Trust, which was a collective criticisms back then, which, of course, then in turn led to the reform movement. Now, we've had a lot of achievements at the OST, and I want to go over just a few of them real quickly with you. For the third year running, we have received an unmodified audit of the financial records, a huge improvement of the audits of the past. Our books are in order, and trust funds are properly accounted for. Since the establishment of the Trust Beneficiary Call Center, we have logged in over 1.5 million calls and addressing concerns of Indian peoples. And we have a first-line resolution rate of about 98%. And I'm thinking about my commercial bank. I'm not sure they have a first-line resolution rate at 98%, probably much lower. I'm sure the industry standard is much lower. I've actually called our call center twice, and the issues I had related to addresses and direct deposits and things like that, and they were resolved while I was on the call. So once again, I know the mission of the OST clearly being by the special trustee, but more important than that, I know the hard work that goes into what it takes to serve as fiduciary for Indian trust beneficiaries. This year, we were happy to establish an advisory board for the special trustee, and we're very excited that they're working with us, and we're having meetings. They're a very distinguished group. You can get their bios on our website, and I'm very happy to report that they're making a lot of progress, and they have highly professionals and highly credentialed individuals, and very knowledgeable about Indian countries. So we have more people and more assets working on behalf of the beneficiaries. Finally, about the OST, I'd like to point out that we have over 80% of our staff are Native Americans, and so focusing solely on service to the Native American communities. So that in itself is indicative of how highly we not only participate directly, but the high levels of knowledge about our own communities. As I said, I'm Osage, and the Osages have a lot of activity with the OST, and I am part of that, and with my family and my cousins that I spoke of. And I appreciate the work that the professionals at the OST do, and I see it, as I said, firsthand. So there have been a lot of historical challenges to trust beneficiary services over the years, and we have, at the OST, worked very hard on behalf of beneficiaries. Our goal from the mission statement is to protect and preserve Indian trust financial assets and to accurately account for income due to beneficiaries, and to provide timely statements for the account and timely and responsive customer services to account holders. It's a very tall order. It's not easy to fulfill, and it's a bit overwhelming at times. But OST and all the professionals that are there have risen to the occasion time and time again. So this is how we have become Indian country's bank, trust company, accounting firm, real estate appraisal business. When I line it up that way, you can see how wide and broad our mission is at the OST, and the number of professionals and accredited professionals too that are involved in our day-to-day activities there. We have successfully reconciled over 40,000 financial transactions with Treasury each day, more than 10 million each year. We receive and distribute about $1.7 billion each year to more than 300,000 individuals. We're also, though, aggressively addressing such challenges as financial education. I want to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about that more tomorrow morning. I hope you guys stay around. It's going to be a very, very important talk in the morning. Now, financial education comes in comes in all colors and shades. As I always say about financial education, no one's ever against it. So I'll say financial education, well, our tribe's all for that, or we do that. We talk to kids about money and things like that. But what we have at the OST is we call it a life cycle approach. And by the way, that is not me up there. Our approach is simply this. We think of financial education as being focused on young people in our communities, prior, elementary school types, that age, all the way through high school, through college, saving for college, all the way to first job, all the way to home buyers, and of course, ultimately leading up to retirement planning, trust in estates, wills. That's what we do at the OST. We don't carve out any particular segment. It is a holistic approach. It involves all of those pieces, and I'm very proud to say that at the OST we have professionals that can address all of those topics. In doing so, though, I have to say this too, it takes a lot of time. It's very hard work, and it takes a lot of focus and a lot of our resources too at the OST. And I presented financial education topics when I was in the private sector before I came on board, and now I kind of tag along with our people as they go out and present financial education materials to tribal communities. I was at an event in New Mexico where we were it wasn't a wills clinic, but we were talking about estate planning, and it was being translated into Navajo simultaneously. And I understood the cultural implications of talking about death were important, and we respected that. But that's a challenge to talk about estate planning and not talk about death while it's being translated in another language. Such is the level of expertise at the OST. I mean, that wasn't me. That was the people in the field. I marveled at their work and how they were very careful to be respectful of cultural differences. Yet, we had a mission, and the mission included the talk about estate planning. And for some reason, I was asked to sign autographs. I don't know what the Navajo speaker said in particular, but I mean, I did nothing other than show up. But I was happy to sign autographs. That's all I can say. So, at the OST, we're addressing such things like that all the time. Now, we contend with a declining budget. Currently, I think it's around $139 million annually. And just to put that in context, that's about 5% of the budget for the BIA. I often say this: the OST is for the American taxpayer, it's a bargain. All of the work that I told you so far is done on a very small budget in terms of Washington, D.C., and in terms of the Department of the Interior. Small budget, but big mission. And how does that happen? It happens because of the professionals that we have at the agency. Of course, now we have a lot of challenges, and one of them involves the probate work of the wills. And the fact that so many of these states have become highly fractionated. I want to give you some numbers here, and this will kind of show you the type of challenges that we have. Now we have 400,000 or so open IIM accounts. I'm going to get these numbers right here. And most of them receive proceeds from Indian trust allotments, meaning real property. And they're becoming highly fractionated every day, right? Unfortunately. So we have 2.9 million fractionated interests owned by 219,000 individuals. So that just shows you the level of fractionation there. Unfortunately, all of these interests have to be administered. All of them do by law. So regardless of value, so I'll put this into context here. Now, to probate an estate, let's just use a round number. Let's say it takes 2 years, okay? The cost of probating estate, regardless of value, it could have $1 in the estate, or it could have $1 million, let's be honest. It costs about $3,000 to the American taxpayer, okay? So we have projected that it will cost $1.2 billion to probate all of the current IIM accounts, even those with minimal balances, and there are plenty of those. Plenty. Many with 1 cent in the account. But it doesn't matter. By law, they all have to be probated. And you know, we're using $3,000. It could be much more than that. It could be a number of years. But despite all that, we remain optimistic at the OST. We have evolved, progressed, transitioned into a premier trust organization. And trust me, we're on par with the best in the commercial world. I come from the commercial world. I come from New York financial world. I'm happy to report that the people at the OST are on par. I've seen many things there, best practices that are in the industry. I'm happy to report that. We are restoring the trust in the accounting and the accountability of trust money, and we're by building a team of highly credentialed professionals. We partner with other institutions and University of Arizona, Haskell Indian Nations, many others around the country. Happy to report that too. Like I said, more than 80% of our employees are Native American or Alaskan Natives and account holders. So we help people ranging from the elderly. We help them with their accounts. We have so many stories, and so many stories filter up to me. I go through the stories, I sift through them for information, and I see one common element, and it's the fact that our people in the field offices truly care about the beneficiaries, truly do, going that extra step, taking it personally, and it's very hard work. A lot of this, I must admit. We have a very large whereabouts unknown group here. Money that we cannot find. The account holders. A lot of stories have floated around about trying to find these people. And I am not sure if we have the whereabouts unknown book here. Do we have that here, Jim? Or I don't know. Anyway, we have access. We often bring that information around with us wherever we speak. When we set up an official booth, I don't think we did that today. What we do, though, to find these people, we use people who are whose job this is, but also we are so deep in the community. We ask around and we're trying to find people, and it takes a lot of work. It takes an awful lot of work. We've had some successes, though. I think that was it 2 years ago we helped identify an individual in Los Angeles who had well over $1 million in his account, and he was unaware of it. So that's you might check that list to see if you're on there. So anyway, we are so now that we're at 20, and I would say that's a mature organization. I would say it's a stable organization, and it's, of course, a responsible organization. We're providing real value to Indian country and to the American taxpayer. A lot of work ahead of us, though. There's a tremendous amount of work to be done at the OST. I'll mention that I'm a White House appointee and Senate confirmed government official. So one of the things that I can do with that, I'm able to help bring the White House and their efforts to help us out, okay? So we're working with other agencies, our sister agencies. We work with the Department of the Treasury, but that was even before I got here. Now we're working with Securities Exchange Commission, and I'm working on a couple of new efforts with the White House. I work for the President, and I work for the Secretary of the Interior, and I can tell you, they are there to help us face all of these challenges, or the challenges of trust reform that we have ahead of us. As I said, numerous tribal colleges, other organizations throughout Indian country. So we are evolving and transitioning and taking the challenges ahead of us and facing us. We're taking them on. We take them on with professionals, with our friends at other agencies, and with the Secretary and the President's assistants. Happy to report we are making progress. If you think about it this way, over 20 years now, from when the OST started to where we are today, that's the context. That's you might look at the OST now, but unless you knew what it was like when it started, it'd be kind of hard to understand how much work was accomplished. But let me point out, though, it's not done. There's a lot more ahead. We have all of these challenges. We're working on them. We've got a lot of good people out there working on it. As I said, I'm so happy you asked me to come here today. And not only, I joke about happy I got out of Washington, but this beautiful place out here, your beautiful homeland out here, it's just wonderful to be here. I know there will be great information. I was looking at the list of speakers that are forthcoming. I'm some great information ahead. But as I said, we wanted to start the conference off with a kind of complete picture of what the OST does, what our mission is, and what we've accomplished, and also what lies ahead for us. And we're here as your partners, and with the university, happy to help. So thank you again. And I'll be out. I'll be around for the rest of the day and tomorrow morning. And I think I speak again tomorrow morning about financial education again. So thank you so much. And if you have other stories or other things, come share it with me. I'll be around. Again, thank you.